Hello, everybody. So it's a little early today, but it is Wednesday, July 3rd, and we are bringing you Block Digest 182 at block height 583,637. So what is going on, Rick? What's up? You got your caffeine fix?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is early in the morning. This is only my second cup of coffee. I might still sound druggy because usually I'd be at about 3 or 4 cups for now. So might have to jump for another cup mid-show or something. But that's all right. Yeah, pretty nice summer day. How are you doing today, Janine?
Well, I am a coffee abstainer, so I haven't had any of that. But guys, I think the supremacy of the US dollar is feeling very threatened right now, so we should come up with a plan to protect it.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, definitely starting to feel a little flimsy now that I don't know, big bad Zuckerberg's on the rampage. How about you, Nopar? How are you doing today?
Well, I didn't drink coffee today, so and it's already 4, so I should drink 6 coffee right now to make sure that I have enough caffeine in my system.
No, you ain't gonna be able to comment later. You're gonna be jittery too much. But yeah, you gotta drink a little, like a cup of coffee a day ain't bad. I don't think I should probably cut back, but coffee was the move away from energy drinks for me. So
why cut back?
Because like we're saying, I mean, 3 or 4 cups of coffee in the morning, I don't think it's that great for you. But
yeah, that's great. Up until 600 milligrams of caffeine.
No, if you don't drink at least 12 cups of coffee a day, you're not a person.
It doesn't have to be 12, but like 6 and 8.
No, it's 12. If you don't have at least 12 cups of coffee in your system, you should not legally be considered a person because you do not have the intellectual capacity to handle modern society.
Dude, if you're drinking 12 cups of coffee, I don't think you're legally a person because your stomach ain't right, man. Your stomach is not right drinking 12 cups.
But you can take caffeine tablets too. That's what I'm doing when I don't have enough caffeine in my system and I don't have time to drink coffee or energy drink.
Oh, yeah. The extreme caffeines, every gas station's favorite item. Yeah, so I got a little bit of caffeine in me, and I guess everybody here has the appropriate amount of energy they need to do the show. So where are we going today? What's our first story?
So first up is my paid promotion slot from my Blockstream overlords. You know we always have to get that out first or I don't get my bonus.
Oh, yeah.
But so Blockstream has dropped a prototype tool for doing asset swaps on Liquid between different tokens. And so shockingly, it actually has a GUI on beta launch. So that's it's a very strange experience coming from the type of nerds who work there, you know, initially deploying something with a GUI, but I'll take it. So it's a little bit rough around the edges playing with it. So I would recommend when you go to install it, there is a dependency on PyQt5, obviously, as well as a package called Click I've never used before. But make sure that you are calling pip through the Python interpreter and not standalone, and that you have both of those dependencies satisfied with the appropriate versions. PyQt5 will throw an error if it's higher than version I think it takes version 5.1.1, but you got through the edge there, and it's actually a pretty nice, simple tool. It's just literally a GUI with a start new swap or a continue swap button, and you can initiate that with the start, or after you start a swap proposal, it allows you to select the asset you will send and how much of which asset you'll receive, and then it just dumps the raw transaction for you to send to the other party, which you would put into the continue swap button when you initially launch it, and just paste it in there, approve it, and then it goes back to the person proposing it to finalize and actually execute the swap. Now, right now, it cannot be used to swap assets in a single wallet, although obviously there's no real need for that. Just to be aware of like the actual technical limitations. But this is pretty neat. Like people actually have a basic tool out there that they can roll into things or just use to perform a atomic swap within the Liquid sidechain between different assets. So this is obviously, when you deal with the OTC use case, really the first and primary thing you need. Like with this, I can just bring my Bitcoin into the sidechain. You can bring a bunch of tethers. You trust Tether. I trust Tether. And each of us trusts somebody to pull the Bitcoin out of the sidechain later. And switching those is now completely trustless within the confines of the Liquid security model. And so like this is really pretty much all you need to really start using Liquid for more secure OTC trades, which is a pretty awesome thing, because it not only lessens the counterparty risk there, but it's just also, it really opens up the potential, I don't know, I guess, size of liquidity for the OTC markets out there, because the ability to interact between different markets, brokers, you're all just in the same thing. You can all, if you can communicate some way, just seamlessly trade without dealing with anybody. So like, I think this is definitely, the core infrastructure, as silly as it might seem to say that about just a simple Python tool like this, to really bring some serious change to the OTC markets and just the whole market dynamics. And it's going to be a pretty interesting thing going forward. So for right now, if you have a useless shit token worth nothing, swap away and waste Bitcoin on playing with it.
Yeah, I guess this is definitely one of those main use cases for Liquid that, was something that was to leverage that two-way peg to make sure that you could have some fast settlements there. And, like you're saying, it's good to have this swap tool, because this is pretty essential in order to achieve that. So yeah, it's good to see this. It's good to see Liquid moving forward. We've seen, like we're saying, these second layers, like Lightning, the amount of development on there has been insane. So to see some development on Liquid, it's always good to see this second layer stuff moving forward, and how exactly it all keeps going and scaling. And whenever we run into things, we'll figure out our way forward. But yeah, this was essential first step in, getting everybody on there and testing this stuff out, really putting it to the test. So yeah, good job, Blockstream.
Oh yeah, and real quick, also another thing to keep in mind with this is, because of the use of confidential transactions on Liquid, you actually have to share the blinding key for outputs with somebody you're doing this kind of swap with. So that is something to keep in mind as far as privacy models. Like when you engage in a swap like this with somebody else, you are pretty much giving them all the information about the outputs involved in that, because you have to exchange blinding keys to do this.
All right. No par, Janine, y'all got any comment on Liquid swaps?
I don't like the GUI. Just kidding. They are trying to solve the largest problem of Bitcoin. Not gonna complain about the GUI. It's good that they have.
Okay, no para. We actually got a GUI out of Blockstream when something initially launched. Okay, just take it and be happy.
I do. I just couldn't express my sarcasm there. Sorry.
I get it. It's just we got some people who are pretty sensitive to Blockstream. I get it. Janine, you got anything about liquid swaps?
Nope.
All right. Well, then, what else is going on, man? We see some other developments with Sea Lightning. What's going on there?
Am I gonna have to put together like a Janine soundboard to like play from whenever you don't have a comment?
You mean like pre-recorded comments?
Yes.
I mean, you might as well, because when you ask me for comment, I don't have anything. I'm trying to think of something to say, so that would be useful.
You can't turn Janine into a bot. That wouldn't work.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna actually do it.
I have something to say. Today is Julian Assange's birthday. He's 48.
Ah,
Wow.
happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, man. You caused a shitstorm before 50. Good job, dude. He's like, yeah, seriously, though. I hope everything's going well in that situation. All right, so what else is going on with Liquid, man?
Well, Groobles has just dropped a tutorial for getting a fork of Sea Lightning running on Liquid. It doesn't actually have a CT support right now, so you will be moving outputs on Liquid into publicly visible non-CT outputs if you use this. But they're going in and out of CT, although it is still something to keep in mind. But now Liquid is actually compatible with an existing Lightning client, and Lightning can just go live right now on Liquid. And they are planning on actually working to bring CT support to the fork with Liquid support. But the more important thing is now people can actually play with atomic swaps in and out of Liquid over Lightning. And so like it's really just kind of nice to see this, because we've been watching over like the last year or so just like massive development in terms of infrastructure and different utility and protocol capability support on Lightning. And now we're starting to see that kind of pace catch up on Liquid. So it's fucking pretty awesome. Like around the same time, we're going to have at least two pretty big second layers really hitting their stride and being fully interactive between the two. So it's just going to be really fucking fun to see.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, Lightning Network's got a lot of developers. I mean, that's a place where a lot of development is happening. So, that sort of compatibility with Liquid, I'm sure we'll see some more people creating their own sort of swap tools, and what exactly is going to come from that. Yeah, interesting future ahead for the second layers and coming together of the second layers. It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking mostly about Liquid here, but like Elements, the software it's built on is totally open source. So like look ahead, if we get to a point where CT is supported seamlessly, where it can interact with mainnet non-CT stuff across Lightning, then there's like nothing stopping anybody from setting up, say, a bunch of federated CT sidechains specifically for being able to do Lightning stuff with CT. And that really changes the game in terms of, privacy over Lightning. Because if one whole endpoint can be kept CT and just route over to already existing channels on the mainnet that don't have CT, like you can really start adding new degrees of privacy to that.
Absolutely. I mean, Lightning is already kind of adding a layer of obscurity, and then with Liquid, CT in there. I mean, yeah, it's just the sort of models that people can put together to add that level of privacy is it's definitely something we need to keep moving forward. And yeah, I imagine we're going to see some interesting things put together to where this idea of remaining private in Bitcoin isn't going to be as what people would call complicated today. But yeah, I mean, as these tools get developed, things will get easier.
Yeah, I mean, just like, think about, say, some side chain that gets set up just to be for routing over Lightning Network with CT support. And people are just swapping off the main chain with rendezvous routing through that. The receiver coming from the main chain and rendezvous routing in the middle on this CT supporting side chain. And you just have things like that you can always try and throw into the middle of a Lightning route.
It's definitely going to be an interesting future. So, no part, Janine, y'all got any comment on this one as far as C integration with Lightning and Liquid?
No.
Are you kidding me? No par? You have no comments on something involving CT. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, punk?
No, sorry. I was just thinking about something that I want to write down because it's a good idea to implement into Wasabi.
Taking notes.
Yeah, it just came to my mind. But yeah, so I don't have any comments to this.
All right. Janine, anything else for us? We got to pull out the soundbite.
Yes, pull out the soundbite.
All right. So, moving on. All right. Last we haven't talked about this new exchange, ErisX, in a while. In fact, I dug through the archives and couldn't find the episode where we brought them up. I know we covered their launch, and the big thing surrounding ErisX is they are backed by TD Ameritrade. Well, there's another big thing about Eris. Just a couple of days ago, on July 1st, they were granted a DCO license by the CFTC. DCO stands for Derivatives Clearing Organization. So they just acquired that license. Thomas Chippas, CEO of the exchange, said, quote, ErisX is unique in that for our digital asset market, we have divided the trading and settlement functions using traditional exchange and DCO clearing models. This reflects the structure that institutional investors expect from other asset classes and will help drive these markets toward greater relevance and accessibility, close quote. And then if you're wondering when to expect these new futures contract, the general counsel, Laura Cristia, said, quote, when futures on digital assets launch later this year, we will offer the market a single unified platform for both spots and futures, close quote. So it looks like TD Ameritrade will be offering all of their customer options in the spot and futures market for digital assets. I would be hopeful that they are offering Bitcoin only contracts, but the wording of the press release says nothing about Bitcoin only digital assets, similar to Fidelity's digital asset platform. It sounds like digital asset is the terminology we'll hear when people are referring to these basket of normie coins. So we've seen the price rise over the past couple of months, and it's been getting pretty volatile here in the past few weeks. I'd imagine that has a lot to do with new market participants entering the space, and with a large group of retail investors having access to these basket of digital assets, I wouldn't be surprised if we see another major price rise and another alt season to boot. So anyway, this is a big move forward for ErisX and TD Ameritrade, but we'll have to wait till later this year to find out more details about these contracts. But what do you guys think about Eris getting the CFTC's blessings?
Well, I mean, that's a huge step forward. I mean, we've been really looking at, most of the concerns regarding backed. The kind of the exception they were looking for in terms of, custodying and clearing things themselves. And the fact that licenses are even going out for that, like that is a pretty big thing. Like that, I think, is the first domino in a series of them that are gonna fall and really potentially just remove a lot of the lines of reasoning and roadblocks that keep going up for institutional Bitcoin products.
Yeah, I definitely saw Backed was working on a similar thing for clearing, as well as Gemini is also applying for some broker dealer licensing. So yeah, I mean, this is something going forward that I guess we got a couple of people in the door, and we'll probably just they provide the framework, and we'll see more and more of those crossover, and more people have access to this and want exposure to the space. And we'll likely see, we don't talk about price that much, but I mean, if you think of 2017 and the CME futures and CBOE and the way they launched and the price and all that stuff, I mean, it's hard not to look at it and think there wouldn't be something sort of similar happening. But, I don't really like to speculate too much about that. Otherwise, you get a little crazy. But, yeah, Janine Nopar, you got any comment about retail futures markets? I know y'all love that subject so much.
Yeah, I'm not even quite sure what those words mean, but
all right. So, Janine, I know you do have something to tell us. There's an interesting story I saw yesterday about some people trying to counter this whole FATF tracing everybody. What's going on with that?
Well, I don't know if they're exactly countering it, which I'll get into later, but basically, recently we've been talking about the guidance documents from the Financial Action Task Force, and one of the blockchain surveillance companies called CipherTrace has been sending out press releases to various media in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space, including Bitcoin Magazine, that they will be partnering with another company called Shyft, which that name, if anyone knows, makes me want to barf, to develop what they claim is an anonymous identity protocol, which partners claim will allow crypto service providers to share information without disclosing user identity. They claim that this solution involves a proof of knowledge identity protocol resembling a proof of knowledge, a zero knowledge proof on a, quote, smart contract platform with shared access between exchanges and other relevant cryptocurrency service providers. This cryptographically secure tool will facilitate an identity hub that will satisfy FAF's crypto travel rule, which, as we talked about in a recent episode, was about requiring banks to share information about clients when they transfer over $1,000 to another bank or institution. And a representative of CipherTrace said that in order for them to seek information, like actually go after them, and if it's a non-native person, they would still have to file a mutual legal assistance treaty with the cooperative country to get more personal information. And they claim that they hope this solution will encourage responsible disclosure of persons of interest without compromising the personal data of your everyday law-abiding citizens. So yeah, there's a lot of buzzwords in there: smart contracts platform, zero knowledge proofs, identity hub. But none of this really answers the important question that I have, which is who will actually have access to the unencrypted identity information, what conditions have to be satisfied to access it, and who will have the keys to decrypt it. I mean, they kind of said that this would be a shared access platform between exchanges and cryptocurrency service companies, but it doesn't say whether any law enforcement or government agencies would have access to it directly. And it doesn't explain, like, under what conditions will certain proofs be made transparent or any of that, if it's a zero knowledge proof system with the ability to make that information transparent. And also, it doesn't exactly explain how useful a zero knowledge proof of, some identity details about a cryptocurrency user would be in a law enforcement context. So Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of information here, and it also doesn't make me particularly confident if this is being run by CipherTrace, because I just want to remind everyone, CipherTrace is partnered. I mean, I didn't check recently, but they, as of a few months ago, they were partnered with a KYC compliance company called Identity Mine Global, which is one of my primary suspects for who the former director of institutional sales at Coinbase was talking about when she said that their former partner for handling blockchain analysis and KYC stuff was selling data in violation of their contract or their agreement. So yeah, I'm not exactly too keen on anything CipherTrace is going to get involved in. I'm not particularly interested in any blockchain surveillance company thinking that they can actually do anything good for privacy. I'm really skeptical of that, so I don't have that much expectations for this. And at the end of the day, you know, if they really want to get your information, they're just going to go through the traditional legal channels. So whoever's collecting whatever information, you know, if you're collecting information like this and you're, you know, the company is in a country who is complying with these kinds of requests, the data is going to get there anyway. It doesn't really matter what kind of zero knowledge protocol you've implemented, because I doubt it would actually have any privacy protections that are meaningful.
Yeah, I was kind of, I don't know, I was suspicious of this news when I saw it, because I was just thinking CipherTrace and Shyft, like, what big reputation do they have that's going to make me start to think this combination is going to create some product that's actually going to be useful for outmaneuvering half of what this. Yeah, I mean, like CipherTrace, they're going to build this, but they're going to quit the chain analytic part of the industry. I highly doubt that. I mean, like this totally seems like a Trojan horse to me. I mean, it kind of sounds like one of those things where people are just like, yeah, use Zcash because it's more private, but buy it at this exchange with your identity, you know, all enabled. And, you know, don't ask questions because the technology is a little too complicated to pay attention to. When the reality is like, yeah, there's tools available out there. We have Wasabi, we got Lightning Network, we've got Liquid being, you know, built in, like we just talked about, more integrated with Lightning. These tools are coming down the line to where people can create their own anonymity and stay anonymous within this industry, within Bitcoin. But, you know, everybody wants to find an easy solution. And I think this just is like, when I read it, I was like, man, this just feels like a Trojan horse. But what do you think, Shinobi? No part.
Can you explain what the product does? What the product is expected to do?
See, that's like where I'm lost, is like, what are you trying to do here? Just prove that there is an identity period associated with something? Just hash the name and send the hash. And then you can have everything associated with an identity, and you can't cheat and try to change what that says later if you reveal it. Like, why do you need zero knowledge proofs? Like, why do you need some hub system just like hash things?
Yeah, I don't think they could tell you an answer why, other than like, hey, you know, look, we got a partnership and we're trying to solve this big problem everybody's a little worried about. But I mean, like, you know, I've covered the travel rule and you didn't seem too worried about it. I mean, it does seem like something that everybody should see as like counter to their value proposition if they're trying to serve customers within Bitcoin.
Well, yeah, I'm not like worried about it. I'm just confused as to like, why not just hash things?
Yeah, because let's imagine a scenario where I don't know, you have someone who's they suspect of doing money laundering and they're using a service based out of Germany. And then they start, you know, they decide to move the money to a service that's run out of, let's say an exchange, a service run out of Portugal or something like that, or the United States. And so like if the service in Germany is like suspecting that they're engaging in money laundering, what use is there in like sending a hash of someone's name around to various exchanges saying, hey, this person who we cannot name, but here's a hash of their name, this person, we think, we suspect that they're engaging in money laundering. It's like, how does that, because it would be like, well,
it's just for reconciling. Like, let's say you want to catch the money launderer and he's operating in Germany, Paraguay, the US, and Iceland. Like, it's the issue is patching together all of that information, but it can just stay everywhere. And if I send money from Germany to Paraguay, the hash of my name salted with whatever the German bank uses goes along with it. And then they keep that. And when you put all of those records together and get what the hashes are from everybody, which can't be cheated, then you can see like this is all the same person. And that's my point, is like, why do you need zero knowledge proofs? Like, just hash it.
I mean, that's assuming that all of the services are, if they're making hashes of their various customers' names, that assumes that they're using the same format of the person's name, or I don't know.
But well, no, that's the point. Is like, the idea isn't to make the hashes match in like the present. It's that you can reverse them in the future to prove they're all the same person, even though like I'm going to get a different one from the German bank in Paraguay and not know necessarily that it's the same guy who received the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this would all be something that would be like for forensics later on after you catch the guy through other means, but it's not actionable in any way in the way that it sounds to me. Like, it's not something that would be useful if you were like trying to find a person doing something or to stop a person doing something.
Well, yeah, but it's, the point is like you use other things to do that. Like, if I'm in Germany and I go to Paraguay and go, hey, this guy's laundering money, like, I'm not going to use hashes, or I'm going to have some legal basis to go like, this is this guy's name. Like, why do you need, like, I don't know, this whole idea, I can't wrap my head around it. It's just, it seems stupid.
Yeah, I agree that I think you guys may go a little bit too far of speculating on something that has very little. We have very little idea that what it wants to be, because it's just a bunch of buzzwords, I'm not sure that's enough to. So maybe move on to the next topic. How about that?
No, I will speculate wildly on concrete details all day. I'm here all week.
Well, the concrete detail is that CipherTrace and Shyft partners. That's a concrete one.
Right. That's about
boring.
where it stops.
Oh, that's not boring.
It's definitely an interesting thing to see, like we're saying, though. I mean, as far as what they're building, I think no part just said it best. I don't think they even know what they're building yet. So we'll have to wait and see. But as far as things go now, like we're saying, I mean, neither of the two companies like throw my hands up in the air and say like, oh, they've done something great. Like, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, what happened yesterday, and it seems like something is still happening this morning. It's like internet traffic. You can't load a website. We can't even read each other's messages. We had to go from Twitter to Keybase, and I even couldn't get y'all through Wire. Like, what the hell is going on?
Oh, well, Wire is fine. I just wasn't looking at it. But what happened is because everyone has stupidly decided to use a rather centralized service called Cloudflare, which is a bane of many people's existence in information security. But basically what happened is that yesterday they tried to deploy a new rule set for blocking. They said the intent of the new rules was to improve the blocking of inline JavaScript that was used in attacks. So this was actually supposed to improve their system. But the consequence is that it triggered like a CPU exhaustion event. And so this was around noon yesterday, a bit after noon. And that basically, I think it affected 82% of, at the worst, traffic dropped by 82%. So it affected like a whole bunch of services that and websites that were using Cloudflare. Yeah, so that it also includes some cryptocurrency exchanges like Coinbase, CirclePay, Bitfinex, Poloniex, Itbit. Haven't looked at any others because I don't use any of these people, but or or companies. But yeah, a big deal. I don't know why people are still using Cloudflare for everything, but that's what happens when you just make one little mistake. Everything goes down for a day.
This explains so many things. Yesterday I was afraid I got hacked or something because Google kept signing me out of Google Docs and Google Hangouts, and I had no idea what's going on. I had to clear the cache, but probably it's related then.
Yeah, it's like what I thought was interesting looking at this is like how it affected the whole crypto ecosystem when really most of what went down was just analytics and logging stuff. And so like just those services crashing like brought down all of these sites. And you know that's just something to like think about is like all of the stuff in this ecosystem is using this one company for data logging and analytics. Like that is a pretty big data mine of behavioral data in the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, like for sure, I was looking at it. Some of the stuff, like where the CoinDesk tweet was saying some people were seeing like $26 Bitcoin on their ticker on the website, and it kind of makes you think like everybody using a singular service like this, and they just decide they're going to update to fix a problem, and of course it causes a problem, and everybody gets shut down, and the markets start to lose the spot price. You think some of those exchanges would fill orders that were definitely not supposed to be filled because it's like that portion of the exchanges are like looking at a price, like an analytic set that moves their spot down?
Well, I think we're already at the point where there's big places of liquidity that aren't going to get hit by that, and like more and more are going to come with institutions. But I'm just more worried about like all of this data on market participant behavior being concentrated in one like honeypot, like collected at one place.
Wait, so Rick, you said someone on Coinbase was seeing Bitcoin that was priced at $26?
CoinDesk, not Coinbase.
Oh.
That's where I was like, if it was an exchange, would that order get filled?
Oh, yeah, well, CoinDesk doesn't surprise me because like it's CoinDesk, but yeah, that would be bad.
Either way, the whole thing's bad. And I mean, it seems to be something ongoing. They're trying to continue to fix it because, like I said at the start of this, we've got some problems with Twitter messages, and it just seems to be a recurring problem right now where, in certain aspects of the internet you try to go through, you're going to run into some 502 errors or, just some errors that, seem a little odd. It's probably not your connection. It's probably a centralized service built into the infrastructure of the internet that needs to be spread out a little bit. So while it's bad, maybe it's identifying a problem that other people will try to, right now, this idea and concept of decentralization is sort of taking off on a major level. You hear it in songs, you hear it about politics, you hear it everywhere nowadays, it seems like. So maybe whenever one of these incidents happen and it's in the public consciousness, they'll actually start figuring out that the way the infrastructure is set up right now for the internet, it's not exactly good for errors.
Yeah, and I just want to point out the end of their post that was kind of explaining what happened. Cloudflare says, we went on to review the offending pull request, rolled back the specific rules, tested the change to ensure that we were 100% certain that we had the correct fix, and then blah, blah. We recognize the incident, like an incident like this is very painful for our customers. Our testing processes were insufficient in this case, and we are reviewing and making changes to our testing and deployment process to avoid incidents like this in the future. Yeah, might want to do that.
Really hard to find all those problems in a bubble. All right, so what you got any more comments on this one, guys? Shinobi Nopar? I know it's something, where there might be some interesting angles on.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, no far.
I just wanted to say that the fact that the whole internet is using this service, or at least a big part of it, just tells a lot about web development practices. Like, get the thing done in as little time as you can, and that's how much it doesn't work in Bitcoin, because, well, you see, the npm issues hacks are the exact same mentality in the minds of a developer. So if you just put all kind of third-party services into your application, then it's not the only thing that you have to worry about is your data. What you have to worry about is the security of your private keys, in case you're putting your you keep your money online. Mostly the services those are using Cloudflare, but also the things that well, the JavaScript wallets, right? Or all the Electron users, not Electrum. Electron is the let's put the web on desktop and mobile and go with that. So that's the idea. It's don't use JavaScript.
I think it shows issues a lot bigger than just like web development. It's like fundamental architecture issues with the internet. I mean, getting away from like big tier 1 backbone networks is not happening in our lifetimes probably, but a lot of the big issues we see are all at like the edge. It's like ISPs manipulating things, it's central CDNs to like get stuff to us through that last mile, like getting targeted or fucked with. And it's just all of these things on like the edge that we can actually try to address, like build out more distributed like CDN infrastructure, like let people like handle funding that collectively, or just like make better market choices and not Googlify like the whole CDN market, or like stationary mesh networks tiered into higher tier networks and just bypassing ISPs. Like we can fix a lot of these issues, but like they're serious issues that will take effort to fix. And it's like not just like web development. It's like this is core architecture issues with the internet. Like these are problems based on how the topology evolved, and a lot of them are actually within our grasp to fix.
Yeah, my last comment is that I have a really great sticker that says fuck Cloudflare, and it looks like one of those captchas that you get if you use Tor and come across a Cloudflare website.
Come on, my last comment would have been, let's not shit on Cloudflare, because the thing is that they get to this market penetration means that they just provide such a good service for everyone who wants to use them.
Yeah, and it creates huge systemic externalities for everybody. Like that's like something you actually need to sit and think about and address, or we are marching into a world where the internet is just a giant walled garden that the government decides what you can do in it.
Oh man, yeah. Like it kind of reminds me of this meme I saw recently. Whenever people in price action on Reddit and everything, there was like people talk about 10K support as being flimsy, and they had like a Cheeto through a lock to like try and keep a door locked. Where if somebody just pushed on the door, it would obviously fail. And we've seen this stuff with like some hacks, like what was it, the Bitfinex hack, where everybody had the BitGo wallets on auto approve, and it like took a big incident for somebody to see like, oh, BitGo is kind of a risk, and maybe similarly now, like we're saying, in the public consciousness, people see this. Maybe, Cloudflare will have some competitor crop up and make sure people are keeping their ducks in a row because, as somebody that was a civil engineer for years, where it's like you have to build something that withstands the environment. If I like stood back to look at the internet infrastructure, I would say it's like a bridge built out of toothpicks and those like Cheeto memes everywhere. So hopefully we'll start to clear that up.
You see, one last thing, okay, left is that well, you can say fuck Cloudflare. It's Cloudflare's fault. What is it really Cloudflare's fault? It's more like the fault of the hackers those make Cloudflare to be needed. But is
No.
it really their fault? No, it's more like a architectural design flaw.
No, it's the normies' fault. It's the fucking normies. We should have never let them on the internet.
All right. The internet just doesn't scale. We found that out today. All right. So what else is going on, man? Like, it looks like, Bitfinex and Tether are in the news, and I didn't see the price crash too much. What's going on here?
Well, Bitfinex paid back $100 million of the outstanding loan to Tether and fully paid up all of the interest on the loan owed so far based on their performance in the second quarter of 2019. So, yeah, that is, I think, around a seventh or an eighth of the outstanding debt they've actually used. Depending on the growth in the space, like this, this looks like they can pay this back in like the next year or two if things really explode into a full-on bull market like they did in 2017. And I predict that large swaths of people will still about Tether printing money out of thin air and manipulating the entire Bitcoin market and being a giant Ponzi scheme. Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, like, what they used a tenth of that funding they made in 10 days to pay this loan off. Like, I guess, it wasn't too difficult, and they definitely have some reserves sitting around for if things take off. I got some questions, though, about Tether. I saw in the news also is Binance was talking about switching Tether over to an ERC20 token for their exchange. And I know that Tether is also building out Liquid backend. And and sure, like Tether is about to evolve in this different way, but do you think it's going to switch to this where it's like some exchanges use an ERC20 of Tether, and then some exchanges use a liquid token of Tether? I mean, like, the whole point of Tether is everybody's in this one pool of liquidity. So, I mean, like, I imagine there's some sort of way that would work through atomic swaps or something, but it's just interesting developments with Tether moving around, and since we're on the topic.
Yeah, I mean, real long term, I think all things like that will wind up in side chains like Liquid and like other federated environments. But, strictly speaking, it is all the same pool of liquidity in that all of it is redeemable from Tether one-to-one. It's really the secondary markets where there is that big difference of liquidity. But that's kind of the thing about a stable coin is you can just literally toss it on anything because it's just a promise that you'll give somebody $1 back.
All right. So, yeah, good to know everybody's on the up and up on that whole Bitfinex Tether thing because, just $1 down or 1 cent out of the reserve, everybody's going to flip out. So, good to see. Anything else on this, Janine Nopara? All right, I'm going to take the soundboard no.
Nope.
So, what's going on with the Bank of International Settlements? These guys, all right, what's going on?
Well, after shitting on Bitcoin for many years now, because he's all butthurt that it upsets the order of things, the head of the BIS is now saying that central banks will likely soon need to issue their own digital currencies, and that the BIS is actually supporting a few central banks' efforts to research and develop them in the near future. He even said pretty much that arrival of such products might just be around the corner if there is a clear market demand for them. And I think the real interesting thing here is just the timing and how this coincides with what's going on with Facebook and Libra being pitched. That all of a sudden, this institution is just about facing and pushing for something or trying to hint at something that a large number of central banks have already reached the conclusion themselves that doing would completely upset the entire structure of the financial system and just how liquidity flows through it and debt functions. That would just destabilize everything. But now that Facebook has come out with Libra, all of a sudden that attitude has completely shifted. Like, oh, we might need to do this ourselves to compete. Like if people want something like this. And it's interesting to see the timing when you juxtapose those two events and just how that flip came to be situationally. Like it's really interesting the attitude difference based on the perceived threat that institutions like this see in something like Libra versus Bitcoin when the reality is almost completely inverted.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I guess they eventually had to come around on understanding this thing a little bit. And I guess it did take Facebook with a supposedly billions user base to say, like, oh, wow, if somebody just like created something that their user base would use, then, that could be a real problem for us. And, they look at Bitcoin and they don't really see much of a user base there, I guess. And so they never really got that freaked out. But now, yeah, they're a little freaked out, and yeah, I guess they should be. And it's all right, though. I mean, we know that it really can't compete. I mean, we've seen the St. Louis Fed do their research on like the reason why a central bank digital currency would be a bad move in this big game of game theory with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So yeah, it'll be I don't know. This whole Facebook launch thing has definitely ruffled some feathers. You guys, Janine Nopar, got a comment on this?
Yeah, just a little bit of nostalgia here that it's huge news that Facebook, large company, is creating a shitcoin. And I just remember that in 2014, there was a shitcoin that was created by some random small company, and that was the big thing. Wow! Finally, a altcoin is created by someone who is company behind it, so it's gonna be good. Then I bought in, and the exchange went away with my money. But oh well.
Does
But
anybody remember when it was just like us arguing about why businesses weren't taking our Bitcoin yet?
yeah,
Oh yeah.
Not dealing with all of these concrete examples of global politics.
Oh yeah. It's crazy to me how we can report on geopolitics within Bitcoin on a regular basis whenever, yeah, back in the day, it was like, you were a little jazzed to see like some bad news about Bitcoin just because the press was reporting on it. It was so, now it's just like, yeah, you got glaring examples from major corporations, trying to put their hands in this game. It's
yeah.
crazy in comparison.
It's also interesting from a personal development point of view. For example, in university, I was so ignorant I didn't even know who was the prime minister of my country. And with Bitcoin, well, no entities really cared about Bitcoin back then. So, well, I got into Bitcoin. I started to research, and as the years progressed, more and more larger entities, government entities, and companies started to fiddle with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, and this is how I started to get familiar with what the hell is going on in the world. It's really interesting to see it from that perspective. That I probably very biased because I learned everything from a Bitcoin lens, but well, it's probably better than that I wouldn't know anything.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think about.
Jeez, man. Yeah, it's yeah, like you're saying. I mean, whenever I was looking into this, it was like we're saying, it wasn't nobody talking about it, and it was very, very interesting in 2017. It kind of all took off there towards the early mid part of it, and it was really kind of a wake up call for me, where it was like, oh shit, this experiment is moving out of this experiment phase, and yeah, go ahead.
Or also the money that you don't really have any conception of what's the difference between $1 million and $1 billion. It's almost like the same, except when you live through that Bitcoin goes from $1 million to 10 million market cap, 100 million, and then you can see what's really going on. Then you can see when there is a news in somewhere, random news, that hey, 500 billion went into this project. Yeah, Bitcoin got into 500 billion too, so it's not that big money. So you have perspective. You can compare the big news to Bitcoin's market cap. It's interesting.
Yeah, this perspective we're at is definitely dizzying from where we were. And yeah, I guess there's some guys like Facebook trying to jump out on the top roof level where we are, and it'll land them in trouble. So yeah, it looks like it did. And they're in some more hot water. So what is going on with Libra coin?
Well, yesterday a screenshot of a letter supposedly from Congress started circulating from Pomp, and it turns out to actually be legit. It's posted on the financial services house.gov site now. But Maxine Waters actually did it. The opening paragraph of a letter from the Financial Services Committee to Facebook is, "We write to request that Facebook and its partners immediately agree to a moratorium on any movement forward on Libra, its proposed cryptocurrency, and Calibra, its proposed digital wallet. It appears that these products may lend themselves to an entirely new global financial system that is based out of Switzerland and intended to rival U.S. monetary policy and the dollar. This raises serious privacy, trading, national security, and monetary policy concerns for not only Facebook's over 2 billion users, but also investors, consumers, and the broader global economy." Like this is that is the opening paragraph of a committee in Congress telling Facebook, no, stop.
Wow.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I like this is exactly what I was saying. Like no para with like the reason something like this is a perceived threat has nothing to do with the technology. It's how it functions economically. And like they even bring up in the letter like their issues with holding data privately, like the Cambridge Analytica scenario, the fact that they're still under an order um, under the FTC for a violation. They owe $5 billion in fines, likely is the estimate, for the reason they're under the order in the first place. Like this is literally exactly what I was saying. Like this is not happening because the government is in this climate, how they're looking at these companies and what they're going to see as the threat here. It's just not happening.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it is crazy to see them send out this letter, but hey, you know what? They are finally starting to get it. I mean, this is 2 congressmen, or the other guy might have been a senator, but this is 2, representative people within the United States government who have openly stated, like, this is a major part of the United States security, and this is a threat. And people are starting to understand that. I mean, whenever that senator or congressman said that a couple months ago, there was people coming into Bitcoin because they did not understand that was something that Bitcoin was trying to, actually intercede in. And, now they see it as some sort of option that can actually sort of, move away from that system. And, here it is again. I'm sure some more people are going to catch it. It's definitely, like we're saying, it's a dizzying level we're at, where these government officials are just so openly admitting something they wouldn't do even, this time last year.
The
Man.
irony is that this kind of puts us Bitcoiners into the same side as Facebook.
No, but dude, like, and this is the committee that oversees the entire financial services industry. So like this is the most potent little sub branch of something that could whack at Facebook, and they are, for exactly the reasons I laid out. Like it's like, here's the target. Like that everybody's worried about Bitcoin and where it's going, but they can't see a way to do anything about it. And then Facebook just, oh, we can do something about this. And we're already really pissed off at you guys for a bunch of shit.
No kidding, right? Like, did you see just recently they announced, like they just openly announced, like it's totally their plan to manipulate the 2020 election. So, I mean, it's like, guys, you are just begging for regulation, man. You're begging to be broken up. I mean, this is things that are all supposed to be inalienable rights as citizens of the United States that you are totally just capturing and moving forward with. I mean, it's kind of a nonsensical position as far as like somebody that wants to actually maintain a business structure that they can work with. I mean, it just seems like this is headlong into something that they should be standing against. I don't know.
Also, this is the same kind of rhetoric regarding the part about, this will impact, the hegemony of the US dollar and therefore US national security. This is the same kind of thing that, what was it, Sherman? I can't remember. Yeah, Brad Sherman, I think, was it the guy who was saying the same thing about a month or 2 ago about Bitcoin. The difference is that Bitcoin doesn't have anything that you can send a letter to saying, please stop this, you're going to harm the supremacy of the US dollar. Whereas Facebook, they release a white paper, the network is not even up, running, or done, and they've already been sent a letter. So like I've said before, if your cryptocurrency or whatever you're building, if you can basically get sent a letter and that could destroy your project, then it's not interesting to me in terms of censorship resistant money.
Absolutely.
I think the US government should put Satoshi behind bars. And we all know who Satoshi is. Stop this.
If he gets put behind bars, it's going to be for being a whiny crybaby in courtrooms. Like,
wait, put the NSA in jail? Yeah, let's do it.
That too.
All right. Yeah.
You see, I'm very
because the NSA made Bitcoin. Get it?
Yeah, I got it. All right, guys. So let's move on talking about, like we're saying, man, Bitcoin and geopolitics. This story is just ramping up. So last we spoke about Iran and what's going on over there. It was the story about local Bitcoins cutting service for the country and HODL moving in to cover the lost ground. But the story before that one we covered, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency mining rigs being seized at the border for not following the country's strict rules for mining was the topic. So now it looks like we have a very similar story coming out of the Middle Eastern country. This time it was 2 separate mining farms shut down in an abandoned factory. In total, around 1,000 mining rigs were seized. We have reported in the past about Iran's precarious political position, with U.S. sanctions being levied against them. Then there's also the fact that Russia and Iran have talked openly about creating a crypto ruble to use for trade. And this crunch has put Iran in the hot seat to make use of the Bitcoin ecosystem to stand up for themselves. We saw them push the cost of electricity down to 0.006 cents per kilowatt hour, but that's on a very strict basis for miners who sign contracts with the government to mine in Pardey Technology Park, and which Pardey is touted as the Silicon Valley of Iran, and it's where the government has set up facilities for R&D and mining operations. But we know not all miners follow the proper paper trail, and those are the guys finding themselves in the hot seat. Iran has moved their way up fast in their understanding of the Bitcoin ecosystem, but the mining ecosystem is still not totally under their grasp. There are people mining in schools and mosques where there's free electricity until they are caught in the process. In fact, things have been moving so quick that it's led to some unexpected hurdles. The Iranian Energy Ministry spokesman Mustafa Rajabi said the increase in digital currency the increase in digital currency mining has made the power grid, quote, unstable and has caused problems for consumers. On June 21st, the energy output measured for the month suggested they have an increase in energy consumption of 7%. All of that is largely due to the increased activity in mining within the country. And speaking of that growing mining ecosystem, we have this tweet in the show notes from Kevin Rook, or at KRook on Twitter, who says, quote, Bitcoin's hash rate is now at 69 quintillion hashes every second, which is up 2x since December's 2018 lows and over 10x since June 2017. He then goes on to make a funny comparison about the estimation of grains of sand on the earth, which is supposedly 7 quintillion, and how Bitcoin hashes 10 times that every second. So, yeah, I'm not sure how many grains of sand are on the earth, but 69 quintillion hashes is very impressive. All right. So, yeah, what do you guys think about Iran ironing out the kinks in their system and Bitcoin's recent uptick in hash rate?
Well, I think obviously at least some people out there are bullish on the price, bringing a bunch of new hash rate onto the network. But
At least some people. Some
Well, yeah.
people are bullish.
yeah.
Don't
Some
you mean
people.
everyone?
No, I mean people who are willing to put up enough capital to materially affect the actual network hash rate. But more on the specific side of Iran, I don't think it's really unreasonable for them to try to crack down on illicit like operations like that when you're talking in some areas a 7% increase in electricity consumption. Like that's nothing to sneeze at. And a big part of Iran's resources are oil. So like that's just like I mean it would have been nice to see Iran just turn into a free-for-all miner's paradise, but that's something that's going to materially affect your oil reserves over time when you're talking energy increases like that. So, I mean, it's not unreasonable to try to tamp that down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like that's where I think just putting out that blanket statement about 0.006 cents per kilowatt hour, and you know the Chinese miners just came running in, and they didn't quite understand the level of people trying to take advantage of where electricity is not being accounted for. And, you know, that's kind of just one of the processes of the mining ecosystem when it moves into your country is you're going to start patching all these holes where the electricity grid is not properly, accounting for what electricity is being burned. And, or, maybe there is something monitoring it and they notice the spike, but they don't exactly understand where exactly it's located. And then they narrow in on it. And yeah, I mean, this happened in China over the course of years with Bitmain running mines out there in Mongolia without anybody having some sort of paper contract with any government official. And yeah, it took a long time for that to actually kind of get reined in. And this time, not so much. I mean, like it seems to be as soon as they recognize something's going on outside of that designated zone where they said they sort of set up shop for these miners to operate, then yeah, they're going to come after that. And yeah, it makes sense that they're doing that. They want to, you know, make sure this thing grows in a healthy way that I guess they can control. And yeah, that's all going to be through the proper paper trail. And yeah, you know, miners, they're going to go around that if they can.
Some people are bullish.
Definitely, man. So, all right, let's, yeah, you're right, man. This might be an early show today because we're just a few stories away. And so let's talk about some people that were disappointed. So back in June of 2017, a group of Russian banks got together to create a blockchain product called Masterchain that would, quote, be used to help create minimum viable products for group members in use cases as diverse as peer-to-peer insurance and mortgage tracking and issuance, close quote. The banks in the group are Sberbank, Alpha Bank, VTB, a subsidiary of the Austrian bank, Raiffeisen, I want to say it's Raiffeisen Bank, and Otkrite Bank. Anyway, them being banks and 2017 being 2017, they used a fork of Ethereum and had plans to launch in mid-2018. Well, now it's mid-2019, and we have some new information coming out of the project. Mainly, that is everyone's disappointed with it. Head of the blockchain lab, Oleg Arbadrostov, I'm sorry.
Arbadrostov.
Okay, yeah. I almost just said I'm going to kill this. I'm sorry, Oleg. Said the system is inefficient, insecure, and slow. Quote, Masterchain does not satisfy the requirements for Sberbank's use case, so for all future exploration, we will use enterprise blockchain platforms such as Hyperledger, Fabric, or Quorum, close quote. So I guess they understand enough to know they don't understand, but not enough to know what they need. It cost them a pretty penny to reach this point, too. Each participant paid an estimated $120,000 to $230,000 a year to participate in this project. That adds up to around $1.5 million to $2.7 million. And Oleg said the problem started with slow technical development from the FinTech Association, and there was a bigger problem of not being sufficiently decentralized. He said, quote, its operation fully depends on the FinTech Association's central server that controls mining and consensus, close quote. Then there were other issues with gas tokens being arbitrary or unattainable and the system being grossly inefficient. The product is so unreliable that Sberbank plans to use Masterchain and the legacy system, so the blockchain has a backup. Last reality check for them was the understanding that they would have to roll out new networks for every use case, and they couldn't just put everything under one chain. So what's the future of Masterchain? Well, Sberbank plans to finish what it started with Masterchain, but it won't initiate any new work. It's likely they will find a way to work with Quorum or Hyperledger. There are more market participants there to pretend like they are actually doing something. So, yeah, it looks like Russia kind of woke up as to what they were sniffing in 2017 and realized that this wasn't such a great idea. What do you guys think?
But are you telling me that putting everything on blockchain is not genius idea?
Yeah, I know this channel is not about sarcastically laughing on stupid projects and saying that we told you so, but this is hilarious.
When I was reading it, I was like, oh, we could have pointed that out in 2017. We could have pointed that out in 2017. And here it is.
We just use old banks as backup in case blockchain break.
I think that is the funniest part, where it's like, look, we got to keep working on this thing because we spent a bunch of money, but we might want to keep that legacy system to back this blockchain up for some reason. Oh, God. It's getting crazy, but like we're saying, man, I mean, it's a different time. It's not 2017 anymore. People are waking up to smell the roses. It's Bitcoin, not blockchain, baby.
No, the Bank of International Settlement says that a CBDC is inevitable.
Yeah, I imagine in another 2 years in 2021, we'll hear about how they're waking up to smell the roses they should have been smelling in 2019. So, yeah.
Imagine the thousands of developer hours that has been put into this, and the thousands of developer hours that's going to be put into fixing this thing, never going to roll out or work.
Oh my god, man! I know.
So wasteful, man.
That's
think
where
they're
it was
smelling
like,
shit coins, not roses.
yeah, definitely. They're smelling shit coins and they're on the path. But yeah, that's
That
where
re-
like, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Janine.
That reminds me, we still haven't talked about. There's like this meme going around about some kind of water spreading disease called crypto or something.
I
Did you
saw
guys see
that. Yeah, I saw that, but
Like
I thought I
shit
misheard it.
coins. Shit coins in the water. Someone
Yeah.
needs to make a Jaws meme with a shit coin coming out of the water.
Just a pile of poop coming out of the water instead of the shark fin. Yeah, that's that would be funny. We need to get
No,
that.
it's real simple, real simple. Just a picture of a litter box and shit coins.
All right. Well, yeah, definitely the Bank of International Settlements needs to learn that game. Russia, but like we're saying, these guys are learning, and I mean, at least they're going to do something else. But like Nopar was saying, sorry, I'm going back to what Nopar was saying. As far as development hours, that was like one of the main things in 2017 when I saw all this attention going towards Ethereum and a lot of different ICOs. I just kept thinking of the mind share and where all that was
Are you
going.
going blue mat? Are you going blue mat on us? All
No,
the smart
no, I'm
people
totally
are
not.
doing shit coins.
Look, things are going to turn here in this. So, like, that's what I thought. And I started the meetup, and, like, I was definitely at a lot of blockchain and Ethereum meetups, kind of preaching what Bitcoin's bringing to try and convince some of these developers what they should be working on. And I do think I turned one or two, but I don't think it was, like, worth the effort because I started to learn what I kind of learned over time as far as markets learning and the way that it takes lost value as far as lost time invested, lost money invested. It takes these things for people to actually learn. And that's where I've kind of become a lot more accepting in this idea of letting the market decide on this thing because it will eventually play out. But it's going to be a long play and there's going to be a lot of destruction along the way. But I mean, people are learning, but it takes that loss. And yeah, that's something I eventually woke up to. That mind share will come over. It's just going to take a lot longer than I thought.
You see, what you're saying is really interesting because I was thinking about many times that I should just go and spread how to do Bitcoin development in the .NET world because other .NET developers might end up building some stupid blockchain that's never gonna be used for anything. The typical what the JavaScript Node.js web developers went into the direction of building on Ethereum and while wasting their times. I don't want the same to happen with the .NET people who did not really get into Bitcoin that much yet. But I mean, I guess it's inevitable to large percentage of the developer community to get into Bitcoin, and there should be some push in the right direction. Oh, what Nicolas Dorier did that was beautiful. He wrote a Bitcoin library called NBitcoin. Then he wrote a book that was called Programming the Blockchain in C#. So now every .NET developer starts out with programming the blockchain in C#, and it's actually has nothing to do with blockchain. It's just how to use his NBitcoin library. So that's the right way to do this,
That's where it takes some innovative thinking to get people to drive their decision making. Because on this subject of value and what people see as valuable, it really does take that investment from themselves to actually sort of figure out where they stand. And you can't really convince them. You have to think about an interesting way to hook them.
Oh, just okay. Just a little bit of side note that actually, we were talking with, in the network, there is a guy called Scott Hanselman who may be the most famous programmer in .NET, or I know you're gonna laugh at it, but they call it .NET evangelists. So the Microsoft evangelist. But anyway, we sent one of our guy to not one of our guy, one of the developer of a library that we are using to talk to him in his podcast, and he actually showed Wasabi as the main project, the most used project on the UI library. Because anyway, I don't go into the history, but the point is that he actually downloaded Wasabi and played around with it. So maybe at least those people, he might understood that what the thing is, and he has now this oh, maybe I should go into this direction because I have seen that there is some content there and not just pop over, you know.
And then he makes a shitcoin.
No. But that is one of the parts of the learning curve. But some people can only be there for a second and realize it wasn't the smart move. So yeah, that sounds like real interesting. That guy picked up Wasabi. Hopefully he'll, I don't know, maybe he'll put up PR or something.
Maybe.
All right, so speaking of PRs, man, it looks like LND's got some stuff moving around. What's happening there?
So version 0.7 beta has been released, and it has the private watchtowers, so you can use that without compiling a separate branch yourself. So right now, it's completely altruistic without any kind of reward for working properly. And you have to configure a listen port and all the fun networking stuff in the configuration file. But it has a separate pub key compared to the rest of the Lightning node, so that trying to access it and use it requires knowing that pub key. And that's done to kind of keep things not simple to make publicly available, and so on, because like I said, there is no profit incentive for these yet. They're just completely altruistic. There has been a few bug fixes involving the wallet chain sync, the UTXO sweeper. So what kind of handles UTXO management between channels and on chain, as well. Sorted out some issues with timing. If two outputs from a commitment transaction have different time locks and use the same hash lock, set that up so that you can't have the conflict there where one of them might be spendable maliciously. Implemented some improvements to the peer-to-peer and gossip protocol, as well as some RPC changes if you're doing anything you might want to look at, and some routing improvements as well. And so this is, pretty awesome. We've got both some major liquid stuff dropping and some major feature improvements in a new LND beta. All layers moving forward, full speed.
Heck yeah, man. That's where I'm talking about. I mean, eventually the developer mindshare did sort of figure out what's going on. I mean, the amount of people working on Lightning Network has really kind of surprised me. And yeah, that's an awesome thing to see, though. And like you're saying from the earlier story, I mean, now that C Lightning and Liquid are, they can work together. I mean, that development, and like you're saying with the Liquid Swap tool, I mean, they're doing development on their own. I mean, this stuff is really moving forward. I mean, this idea of what's going to happen on the next bull run as far as like things grinding to a halt, I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think there's some tools that we'll see people take advantage of, mainly these.
Yeah, I mean, things are getting very close to an incredibly strong position when you throw massive load at it. Like, a lot of stuff isn't really polished or full featured, but it's ready for use if that use piles on. So it's going to be interesting to see.
All right, man. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nopar.
I just said Coldcard, but go ahead if you have something to add.
Coldcard.
That's what I was gonna say. It was like, all right, something else is getting developed.
I do Coldcard. Are you trying to steal my shilling bonus?
No, I'm not that familiar with the release, but I'm familiar with a part of the release. I'm very familiar.
Well,
Imagine.
you can wait a second then. So they dropped recently multi-sig support, which allows you to do MFN wallets, and that was pretty neato. But they've just rolled out another new release building on that, and I'll get into that in a second. That's pretty neat. But with the previous release, there is now MFN multi-sig support that can be set up air-gapped. They have changed the byte endianness of the public key fingerprint. So that's something to keep in mind. That's going to invert itself and drop the 0x prefix. And yeah, the new thing, which is really cool, is you can now create seed words just by rolling a 6-sided die and inputting the roll into the key card through the keypad. You need at least 99 rolls to get 256-bit security from that. But like you can literally provide your own entropy to a Coldcard now. Like that is just badass as fuck. And I guess I will now pass it off to Nopara to explain the next badass thing.
Well, I'm not quite sure it's a badass thing, but it's a very important thing to use this version of the Coldcard firmware if you are using it with Wasabi. Because, well, not really, only if you want to use Wasabi in the future for PSBT workflow, you know, this unique thing that only Coldcard has, that you have to put your SD card into your computer, build a transaction, take out the SD card, put it into Coldcard for signing, take out and put back for broadcasting. So for this, it's important to use this thing because what they did in the previous release, they added a Wasabi wallet skeleton file. However, this didn't work because there is some confusion with the master fingerprint. At least that's what Peter the Great Coldcard developer told me, that there is some confusion in the, okay, what's the master fingerprint? The master fingerprint, there is the XPUB key, which is connected to your account, and there is a master fingerprint, which is connected to your master account, or how would you say that, your seed. And based on that master fingerprint, you have to give that information to the hardware wallet, to any hardware wallet, and that's how the hardware wallet knows that which seed in the hardware wallet they should use. Anyhow, the thing is that there is some, it's a good question. So he said there is a confusion in the industry about the master fingerprint, the NDNS. So which byte or which order should you read the bytes? And Coldcard is reading one way, HVI is reading another way. I guess HVI is normalizing it. I'm really getting into technical details. The point that the previous firmware, that they created the Wasabi skeleton file in the wrong byte order. Now, is this the wrong byte order? The thing is, when you go on Coldcard to show your identity, he's going to show it in the, I don't want to say wrong, but in one way. But how it should show, how other softwares show it, at least Electrum and HVI and Wasabi, is that in the other order. So that creates a huge confusion, and you won't be able to send money with Coldcard with this PSBT SD card workflow unless you change the byte order in the master fingerprint. So I actually contributed to this release on GitHub. Oh yeah, one mildly interesting thing that I noticed that they don't have issues enabled on GitHub. I don't know why, but that's really smart because people cannot have complaints. Anyhow, yeah. So this is an important update. Yeah. So you might ask that, hey, but the other firmware did this way the byte order, the new firmware did this way the byte order. So how do you resolve that conflict there? The trick is that if you do the the master thing, you do the wallet export with the old firmware, then Wasabi normalizes the byte order, but he added a new field that's called Coldcard firmware version, and if it's with a newer version, then Wasabi just takes the byte order that they already fixed. So wow, that was mildly interesting.
So you're saying you got to read the number backwards?
Well, yes, the number bytes, which is interesting in a way that you represent a byte with 2 characters there. So you have to read it backwards if you want to read it by with your eyes, because you can. So you have to take 2 characters from the end, put it in the beginning, 2 characters from the end, put it after the beginning once. Yeah. So it's quite a dangerous confusion, though. But anyway.
That's strong cryptography, man.
Well, but it's also like, and we have a standard, and standards are not very standard. Like the Z pub, Z pub, Y pub, and these kind of things are very very inconsistently used in all the wallets. And oh, in fact, in Electrum, I was looking at their XPub key, and I think they are doing some magic there too, because the XPub key is different than what the XPub key should be. So, well, this some standards, and then people are surprised by wallet intercompatibility issues. Well, yeah, there are a lot. Don't have a good solution for that. Good advice that you should just use one wallet, and then be really aware when you are putting your seed into another wallet, that what are you really doing.
Yeah, ease of access versus like strong security, and it's a tough one to measure. And definitely the standards are not standard yet. We're still coming up with that one.
It's important though, because you need to deal with all these issues in a way that doesn't create a user nightmare.
Yeah, luckily we have been able to communicate. The Coldcard developers are very responsive. I'm jealous of them. I want to be that responsive too. Yeah, but they were very very professional in the way of handling that. Yeah.
Interesting how professional attitudes are in this space.
Yeah, what's professional? Because in Bitcoin, companies like to be cooler than professional companies. So there is a trend there that companies starting to be more humane and less professional, which has benefits and drawbacks too. For example, Blockstream would hire trolls to troll the internet, but not really trolls. It just correct the many trolls those are out there after Blockstream. Would that be a professional behavior from Blockstream? Not really. Would that be more humane to hire some people to correct the misinformation that's spreading? Probably. I don't know.
Are you calling me a troll?
Yeah, I started with the wrong word.
Punk.
I don't know. Is it public yet? But
I don't know. Rick,
I'm
why
sorry.
don't you take us into the next story?
Yeah, plus I've been super distracted. I don't know if you guys are getting this, but I keep getting those Twitter messages from this morning trickling in. I'm like, what is this? All right. Yeah, we actually do have an unexpected story. Something has kind of broken right before we went on air, and it's worth covering and, probably be a little too late next week. So the Casa node, CasaHODL, just launched a Sats back rewards app. And I'm looking through the highlights of the statement here, and I grabbed like the main pieces as far as what's going on with this new wallet. It's a Casa LN wallet, and it says you quote, "You will be able to earn Bitcoin if you don't have a Casa node, but you will be able to earn Bitcoin faster if you have a node." So like you don't earn like you as soon as you sign up for the wallet, I guess you're earning Bitcoin with daily use, but you'll earn more Bitcoin if you connect it to a Casa node, like faster. You'll earn more. So it's a lightweight app, but allows you to experiment the full gamut from earning your first sats to operating a full node from your phone. And there's also a feature called Sats Tag, which is a human readable pseudo-anonymous username that can optionally link with your Casa node address. And they say, we realize that not everyone will want to link their node with a Sats tag, so we will always fully support invoice and address-based payments as well. And Lightning payments to other nodes without receiving an invoice first. So there'll be the invoiceless Lightning network payments as well. And there's also a testnet mode for new users. And this is a statement about the Sats back rewards that you'll be earning. They say, quote, "Today, we are revealing the first of our Sats back features, a 20,000 Sats reward for simply connecting your Casa node to Sats app. To connect your Casa node, you'll need to activate Tor and be fully up to sync with the network. Future Sats back features will not only help people earn Sats, we hope they will encourage better use and adoption of Bitcoin. We'll be announcing and rolling out more Sats back features over the coming weeks." So yeah, it looks like this was just announced this morning from CasaHODL, and it looks pretty interesting to me, like we were discussing earlier, as far as interesting hooks to try and gain people into the system, whether that's developing or just regular adoption. And this idea of getting people to earn Sats on the Lightning Network, I mean, that sounds like maybe I'll just go ahead and start doing that. Download that app and connect it to a Casa node, and maybe I can earn back the amount of money it cost me to get the Casa node. I mean, it definitely sounds interesting. Like, what do you guys think about this?
I mean, it just seems like point blank, like just a rebate program trying to hide just being a simple rebate program with some slick app and marketing and stuff. And I mean, I don't fault them for that, but it's like that's pretty much what this is.
Yeah, it's a rebate marketing thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that happened earlier this morning, and bringing it up later next week, I don't know if it'd be relevant at that point. But yeah, it definitely looks like something that could interestingly drive adoption, but it could definitely also interestingly affect Casa's profit there. So
Well, I mean, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. They're not so stupid to like start selling something at a loss. So that, but yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's not gonna do more than maybe sell a few of their products and get normies like accumulating ridiculously small amounts of Bitcoin for little shit and buying things. And I mean, it's not bad, but like that That's bluntly what it is.
I'm gonna have to look into it, man. 20,000 sats a day. If that's the case, I don't know, maybe. All right, yeah, but I think that about rounds us off for today. It was still a little bit of an early show. Nopara, Janine, Shinobi, y'all got some final thoughts here? Maybe I could drum one up.
Go.
I'm going to say what Janine usually says. No.
I'll say a final thought. Keep your eyes peeled for some Block Digest clips. We got some that testnet stuff going on in the background of ourselves. So, keep an eye peeled for that stuff eventually. Eventually
being the key word.
Yeah. Don't expect it tomorrow or nothing. We got some work to do. This is all, it's work involved.
My final thought is, like I said, it's Assange's birthday, but actually something else interesting happened yesterday, which is that Stefania, who's been doing a lot of the FOIA requests regarding the communication between the UK Crown Prosecution Service and the Swedish prosecution, and I think Australia as well, I'm not sure, as well as any US agencies involved. She's been trying to get those documents and emails made public, and the upper tribunal case was yesterday, and so she said afterwards that the verdict on whether those documents will, if they can force this CPS, and I don't know who exactly they would be contacting, what part of the case this is, but hopefully the documents from the CPS will be made public, and we'll see what other shenanigans they were up to over the past several years while they've been effectively trying to block any legal progress in Assange's case, which has cost him obviously a lot of money, WikiLeaks a lot of time in terms of getting meaningful work done, and just wasted everyone's time. So hopefully that will come soon.
Yeah, that would definitely be good to get that information out there. I mean, the more information that comes out about this, the more people can be educated and not educated by that huge level of propaganda levied against him. And just final thought. Happy birthday again, Julian Assange. I know it's not it'll be a birthday to remember for sure. So happy birthday.
Yeah, and for anyone who'd be interested, I think if you haven't seen it, there's a Nothing to Say sculpture that's been going around since I think 2015. I'm not quite sure when it was first released, but this artist basically made 3 life-size sculptures of Edward Snowden, Assange, and Chelsea Manning, as we thought Chelsea Manning looked at the time. And so they're standing on 3 chairs, and then there's a 4th chair that you can actually interact with the sculpture and stand up on, like you're standing up with them. And I think that that's somewhere in Italy right now, and that will be coming up soon. Yeah. And then the other thing is that there's a campaign going around right now to spread awareness about Assange's case, and it involves taking a selfie holding a picture, which I think, let me check really quick what it says. I get something like, looking it up really quick. Assange's freedom is my freedom. So there's various messages you can choose from, it looks like. Assange's freedom is my freedom, asylum for Julian Assange. I think there's another one, press freedom is my freedom. So there's a few different ones, but basically you just take a black and white selfie holding up one of these signs, and apparently a collection of these photos will be sent to Assange as like a birthday present within the next week or so. So if you want to see more about that, go to the Courage Foundation website, because that'll link you to the campaign, which I think it's called We Are Millions, if you want to participate in that. But obviously I don't recommend doxing yourself if you don't want to dox yourself.
Yeah, you just got to put on that Guy Fawkes mask and put something. Well, make it an interesting way to not show yourself, and maybe you'll be one of the ones Julian gets to see, because hopefully he gets a ton of them where they have to pick the best. And that definitely sounds like an interesting sculpture. I wish I could participate in. So, yeah, it looks like Shinobi's final thought is going to be the final thing right here. Oh, what, you got
I
a final?
demand. No, I just demand finality.
Okay. Shinobi gets finality, so we got to say our goodbyes now. Later, everyone. Y'all have a great evening. We'll see you next week.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Adios, everybody. See you Wednesday.
All these squares make a circle. All these squares make a circle.